everybody. Welcome to the Bob Show here on KYCA 1490 AM and 103.5 FM. Thank you for tuning in. We know you have a lot of choices how to spend the next hour, and we appreciate you spending it with us. We've got two really important, interesting guests for us today, and I think Marty tonight, so the local election's going on, so tonight I think Marty will be here, and he will be giving results of the local election for Prescott, so you might want to tune in for that probably around, I don't know, 7:15, 7:30, something like that. They'll probably have results because it's all mail-in ballot, and they tabulate as they go, and they'll give the results quickly after the 7 o'clock deadline, so that'll be a good thing. We are doing a podcast today and the radio, so if you want to call in, it's 928-541-1016. Okay, that's all the announcements, the only thing I can think of. So here we go. Our guests today are, both of these folks are retired, and so everybody except CJ in this room is retired, so that's a good thing. And we're going to be talking to John Munderloh, used to be the Water Resource Manager in town of Prescott Valley. John, how are you?
Thank you, Bob.
And Larry Tartkowski used to be the town manager in Prescott Valley. Larry, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bob.
Good. I can't remember how many years were you the town manager?
I was a town manager for 16 years, and I was the public works director for 15 years prior to that.
Yeah, okay, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was back in the days when Prescott Valley had 130 centerline mile of road, only 8 miles of which were paved. All the rest were dirt roads.
And one of the things that just popped in my head when you said that was when Prescott Valley got started, everybody was on septic.
That is correct.
That's right.
And I can't remember what year there was an ordinance or something passed that this isn't going to work. We have to go to sewer. Do you remember?
I remember it very well.
Okay.
That was I was hired to go ahead and assist with the elimination of septic tanks and going to a centralized sewer system. And so there was a vote taken in 1990 and a second one in 92 where we asked the property owners in Prescott Valley to cough up $2,100 if it didn't go to bonding, and then there was interest on that. But at that point in time, that bond issue was the largest improvement district in the history of the state of Arizona. And it had about 8,000 units, 8,000 properties. And when we took that to a vote, it passed by 60%.
Right.
We're in favor of doing that because we bundled natural gas, hard surface roads, and centralized wastewater collection all in the same issue. And so that passed very nicely. And then the second time that took in the rest of the town, that one passed like 75% to 25%.
I think it's a good example of citizens trust their government to do certain things for them. And you know, when Prescott Valley acquired the water thing from Shamrock Water Company, it was you voted on that too, right?
No, we didn't.
Okay,
we didn't have to go to a vote on that. Although we did some very extensive public relations campaign, but then public input, and I forget what the percentages were, but overwhelmingly the people in Prescott Valley said buy the system.
Yep.
And so based on the strength of the feedback we were getting, we went forward and bought that.
Yeah.
That was in 99. I believe we inked the deal in January of 99.
Yeah. So it's a good example of people trusting more than a private entity their government.
Well, very interestingly, Bob, with our sewer system, when we went out and did the construction to it and everything, and the prices came in very favorably. We very heavily monitored it and eliminated change orders for the most part. At the end of phase one, we ended up having more money than what we needed to pay off that project. And so what would most governments do? they would have found some way to hang on to that
Sure,
money.
sure.
Okay, I mean that's just what. Sadly, that's what people did. On the other hand, in Prescott Valley, everybody received a $200 check that were part of the phase one of that project, and everybody. In fact, we had one citizen who came here from Chicago, and he used to be the photographer for the Chicago Tribune.
Took a picture of his jacket.
And he was just adamantly opposed to the project from day one. And he wrote letters to the editor all the time, calling us a bunch of Chicago crooks.
Yeah, yeah.
And all. And when he got his $200 check, I ended up getting an invitation to go over to his house, and he was shedding a tear, going ahead and apologizing for all the negative things he had written about the elected officials and staff, calling us a bunch of Chicago crooks. And he said, there is no government that goes ahead and gives money back, and you guys did.
That's amazing. You know, and one of the reasons I asked you guys to come on the show was for this very reason, that people don't know what's happened before they got here, and a lot of the people that are on listening or watching the show today have no idea of some of the really good things that the town of Prescott Valley has done over the years before they got here. So John happened to be born here in Prescott, and I thought maybe we'd ask you to just talk to us a little bit about, just go through the years a little bit about some of the things that have happened since you've been watching what's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I mean, Prescott Valley's story is really pretty interesting in how it kind of came from nothing, out of the prairie out there. Before I was born, actually, my folks and my older siblings lived in one of two houses in Prescott Valley. They rented what is now the Barlow Massicks Victorian house. It was built in the 1880s. It was owned by the Faines, Norman Faine at the time. And it was falling apart, and transients were living there. And Norm was about ready to bulldoze it because it was a nuisance. My folks, being a young broke couple at the time, said, well, we can live there. They like being far away from everywhere. And so they moved in with the promise that they'd fix it up, put a new roof on it, stop the leaks, and that sort of thing. So they lived way out there. They had, at the time, the only mailbox on Highway 69 between what's now Yavapai Hills, which was a ranch house at the time, and what's now Dewey. And so there were no houses. There was not a single rooftop on that whole prairie during those early years that they lived there.
And what year approximately?
They moved in about 1960 and moved out about 1964.
Okay, so folks, if you heard 1960, that's not that long ago.
Right.
Really, think about it. That's just not that long ago. So okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, so it's just fascinating. I mean, I grew up with all these stories, and we always had the folks always had property nearby outside of what's now considered Prescott Valley on Lynx Creek. So even though I grew up in Skull Valley, I consider that more my hometown. We always had the property on Lynx Creek. Later on, a cabin there, and by the time I was about in junior high, we'd moved there full time. So I'd sit there in the mornings. Looking out the window, kind of looking at Prescott Valley grow as I ate my breakfast cereal, standing next to the wood stove because that's how we heated our house, And it was amazing. Saw print pack buildings being built. The aluminum plant was built. Better built back then.
Yeah, better built. Ace Hardware distribution.
And notably, what Larry was talking about. Notably, you'd see early in the morning. You could see the community. But after people started getting up and going to work, you couldn't see the community. It disappeared in a cloud of dust. It was, again, all the roads were unpaved. It was a pretty hard scrabble town. We delivered because they didn't have natural gas. A lot of people, so they had electricity to heat their homes. That was very expensive, inefficient. We would sell firewood to a lot of people out there, and we almost kind of hated to do it because even though we'd had our truck out in the woods and beating around in the forest, we did not like driving on Prescott Valley roads, especially if it had been raining. Even though we'd been out in the forest, it was just slick and or dusty, you know.
When
So
when did Prescott Valley incorporate?
1978.
1978. Again, just yesterday. Really?
yeah.
Not that long ago.
When you
Well,
look
well,
at
Well, from what it came from, the kind of the other thing that happened in the early days is Prescott Valley got platted by a land fraudster, Ned Warren.
yeah, I remember them.
And,
I don't remember,
and
but
so
I
a
know
lot
it,
of
yeah.
what Prescott Valley had to deal with in the early days was just dealing with titles, confusion over various parcels of land, because
Yeah.
he sold parcels to
Yeah,
many times
fraudulently,
to
sure.
the same parcel many times to other different people.
Okay, folks, we got to take a break, and we're going to continue this discussion right after the break. So stick with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back here to the Bob Show. We're talking to John Munderloh and Larry Tartkowski. They're both retired folks that work for this town of Prescott Valley. I almost said city. I didn't mean to do that. Town of Prescott Valley. And we were just talking about the history because a lot of new people have moved down, don't have any concept of really how Prescott Valley got started. So I thought it would be a good chance to get a couple guys here that know what they're talking about and talk a little bit about what happened. So now we're kind of into kind of down the road a little bit. We're past the Dust Bowls where we got the roads paved now finally, and we were talking earlier about getting sewers put in instead of septics. Everybody had septics and all that, which was absolutely vital to how the community was growing. So lots of good things were happening. So pick it up from there. Now we're
Well, Larry spoke about the purchase of the Shamrock Water Company, it's a private water company owned by the Fain family. Town now purchased it in 99,
99, yeah.
which was also a very seminal year for water management
sure is.
because that was when the state said our area was out of safe yield.
Right.
So that gave Prescott Valley the tools to manage water locally, both with the water company and the collection of wastewater and conversion of that into effluent, which is a vital resource as well.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why Fain Land and Cattle was interested in selling Shamrock Water. They saw the handwriting on the wall and how difficult it was becoming to make improvements to the system, and felt that it would be in much better hands with the municipality owning it. So,
Sure. Makes perfect sense.
yeah.
So, those early years. So we're talking now 23, 24 years ago, which isn't very long, as you said.
No.
But that really speaks to Prescott Valley's entrance into the water world. In the water world, the older the better. City of Prescott's been in the water business since the 1880s, if not before, and that gives them rights, senior rights to water supplies like the lakes and stuff like that. Prescott Valley had really started kind of behind the eight ball on that, so it's been a challenge for Prescott Valley to deal with the edicts of water management that come out of the State House without having as many resources as the other communities.
Give us a quick concept, John, of the kinds of rules that the state comes out with that everybody has to comply with. I mean, it's a bureaucracy. ADWR, Arizona Department of Water Resources, is a huge bureaucracy, and
It is, and there's volumes of water law and administrative code that go along with that. But they primarily work on a couple of tenets. One is to try to reach safe yield by 2025. So back at the time, and I remember watching this go down when I was in high school, the 1980 groundwater code said that was passed in 1980.
right.
You need to reach safe yield by 2025. We're going to give you 45 years to hit that soft landing. So safe yield means that you're going to stop overpumping your aquifer and reach a balance between what you withdraw and what goes back in naturally or artificially. So here we are now, 40,
3.5
43
you're
and a
almost
half
there.
years later, and I don't believe we're going by any means going to reach safe yield. But there was a time we were We were projecting that we could make it.
Could do it.
But safe yield, that had always hinged on the concept of importation, whether it was safe yield as a goal for this area or for the Phoenix area or for Pinal County area or for Tucson area, that was always hinged on importation of additional supplies. So that was an important thing.
Yeah, very important. And taking a step back, we need to be really proud of ADWR, although they are a bureaucracy, and we understand that. But they came up in 1980 with the Groundwater Act that was miraculous for its time. They under Governor Babbitt, pulled all the water people from the entire state, water consumers, meaning cotton growers, agriculture, and municipalities and mining interests, pulled them all together, and over a period of time got everybody to hammer out an agreement, one that none of them liked, but one that they all could live with. And because of that 1980 Groundwater Code, the most revolutionary water management plan in the nation, and some would argue the world, was born here in Arizona. And so we really do a fabulous job of managing water statewide. Okay, now can we do better? Absolutely. But statewide, when they talk about the water in Lake Powell and Lake Mead and some of the mitigating things that can be done to deal with that, we're talking way in advance of some problems popping up, and it's because of the Groundwater Act.
Right. So,
and it's significant too in that even though we may not reach safe yield by the ordained time, if you go back in history, we're not pumping any more groundwater out of our aquifer than we were in 1965.
That's
and
because
those rules have helped cap those overall withdrawals, even though we've seen tremendous growth. That's because back in the 60s and 70s and earlier, we had an agricultural-based economy. If you drove through Chino Valley, if you drove through Dewey, you drove through green irrigated fields. Cornfields, alfalfa fields, all that kind of
Young's
stuff.
Farm.
You don't see that now. That's because those water rights associated for farming have been converted to water rights necessary for new home construction.
Right. Convince the people that are listening now that ag water usage is far more than rooftops.
75%, isn't it, John?
I know it's huge, but
per acre, right? So if you're gonna take an acre of farmland and put houses on it, you will use less water on that acre with houses, especially if you're going to capture wastewater, treat it, and create effluent, which is another resource. But I don't want to dive into that too much because you can take that agricultural water right off of, say, a 40-acre piece of land, and you can move it to another area. But if you do that, the Department of Water Resources has a deduction for you. And that deduction grows. In other words, you get less and less water every year that you wait until year 2025 when you can't do that conversion at all. So that's how there's kind of a sliding scale, a reduced scale over time for what you can convert from agricultural land to rooftops.
Maybe, Bob, it would be wise to ask John, the water guru here, ask him a very simple question, and one that I answered weekly as town manager for Prescott Valley. I would end up getting a phone call, and somebody would be just distraught on the other side of the phone saying, I just moved here from someplace west of here.
Okay.
I just moved here, and my neighbors told me we're running out of water.
Yes.
And I would try to talk them out of their tree and explain to them, tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're going to turn on the faucets and you're going to have water. And that frequently was a question that was asked.
Yes.
And John, is there going to be water in those taps 100 years from now?
Well, I'm telling you, you have to do something to make sure that's going to happen.
And
Because we are over pumping our aquifer.
yeah,
And reaching that point where we're going to have water 100 years from now requires that we have some action. Are we going to have water in those taps tomorrow? Are we going to have water in those taps 10, 25, 30 years from now? Yes. 50, 70 years ago from now, better get on the ball and build more resources.
And that's the thing that just drives me crazy is that we have to take action now to avoid that problem. Now we'll all be gone. So everybody kind of shrugs their shoulders. It's kind of like not our problem, but it is our problem because the state of Arizona declared water mining in our AMA, active management area, in what, 1999, 98, 99? So we've known about this problem for a long time, and we started to take specific action, which maybe we should talk about after the break at the bottom of the hour, about how to fix it. And we're still looking at that contract, and nothing's happening. So we got about 15 seconds before the bottom of the hour. We're going to continue. We're also going to talk a little bit about stuff that's been improved, the city hall in the town of Prescott Valley, and the library, and now this giant garage. So stick with us. We'll be back right after these messages. Show. Thanks for sticking with us. From the bottom of the hour, we're talking to the former Water Resources Manager, John Mundelow, from the town of Prescott Valley, and town of Prescott Valley's manager, Larry Tartkowski, sitting right across the way from me. We've just been kind of reminiscing about what's been going on. And while we were on break, we were talking about the giant garage, and Larry was just saying that it's going to disappear because of future growth and things, and it's going to meld into the community and won't be sticking up like.
What? It's all one project.
Okay.
So the parking garage has gone up, and then you've got commercial on Florentine and Main Street, and then above the commercial are apartments. And I forget the exact number of apartments that are going in, but it's quite a few. And they'll be parking on the top 2 floors of the parking garage, and the bottom 2 floors are public parking to take the place of the parking that was available for the arena prior to this project going forward.
Okay. So now the arena is another big thing. When that went in, that was huge. You want to address the arena a little bit?
It's an arena. The
5,000 seat?
Yes, 5,000 fixed seats, and it holds over 6,000 for concerts. And as you well know, the main tenant of the first year that it opened was Sundog Hockey,
right?
Which it went over wildly
Huge.
for the first couple of years.
Yep.
And the quality of the team went down, and I believe that led to its demise, quite frankly. But that anchor tenant has been replaced by basketball, and then it's been replaced by indoor football, arena football. And there are negotiations going now, I'm told, for some other things. So the building remains the heart of the community, or the central part of the community, for entertainment. And that was the goal, and it is being accomplished.
It is, I think, it's the perfect size for our area. It just feels when you're in there like the right size.
It is, yes.
It's a well done thing. And you know, another thing, that Main Street Theater that's right next, right next to the event center, adds another element to what's going on right there, because it's there to attract stuff for children to come and try out and be in plays and amongst other things too. So they kind of, if somebody's got a venue that is much smaller, like I think the Main Street Theater's got like 160 seats or something like that, very very small, and so it's they kind of add ping pong off each other a little bit.
Well, some people would ask, what is going on? Okay, you've got all kinds of projects that are happening, and I can share with you that back in 1989, there was a master plan that was worked on by the citizens of Prescott Valley, and actually it took the place of one that was done about 5 years before that. But the master plan was a vision for this community going forward, and it talked about things like jobs. It talked about having commercial and retail opportunities, having all that available, and also to grow the community so that it was very distinctively different than Prescott. Okay, the question was asked, do you want to be a Victorian community? Nope. Do you want to end up being a cowboy community? Nope. Do you want to be a Western community? Nope. The citizens that worked on that master plan said, we want to project and be a modern, thriving community that embraces all age groups. And to that end, that was our master plan. That continues to be our master plan going forward. It's been amended. It's voted on by the citizens today, and it has, I think we're in our third or fourth iteration. And we are a modern, thriving community. There are tweaks to it that happen every new iteration of it. But we have followed that plan, so that means, first off, it meant paving the roads,
Right.
okay, and getting the infrastructure in that was needed for the town of Prescott Valley.
Yep.
You have to remember, in 1989, there were 8,600 people that lived there.
Did you
Today,
hear that? 1989, 8,600 people.
and one of the goals that was spelled out very clearly by our elected officials over the course of the 32 years that I worked there is we don't want to be second fiddle to anybody in Yavapai County. We want to be an economic dynamo, and we want a place for multi-generational folks, meaning we want families
Right.
as well as those working age and then those who are retired. And now Prescott Valley is the largest community in Yavapai County. In other words, Prescott Valley is larger than Prescott,
Yep.
growing faster than Prescott.
Yep.
The school district is still growing and the largest in Yavapai County. But interestingly, the only community in Yavapai County that's growing younger per the census.
Ah, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and that was one of the items that was very important
Yeah.
in the early days of Prescott Valley, is that we embrace families. We don't become a retirement mecca. We want the full range of ages.
And you know, one of the things that's gone by, I guess I should say, that's kind of a weird thing to say, is real quick. At one point in time, there was a vibe out there that we want to get rid of the name Prescott. Remember, we want to change the name of Prescott Valley. You remember that?
I do remember
And-
that. And that was cast by the side as being foolish and a waste of money.
Okay.
But there
Just-
was that sentiment once upon a time.
Yeah, 'cause so you get that feel. And you know, when you look at the City Hall, you know, it's got a futuristic kind of a look to it too. So hang on to that thought for a second, because I got the break sign. So let's go ahead and take a break right here, and we'll be right back. Stick with us. We'll be right back. The Bob Show. We're talking to the retired water resource manager John Munderloh and Larry Tarkowski, the retired town manager, and we were just talking about you know, the futuristic or the community wanting not to be certain things and wanting to be a looking forward kind of a community, and we were just talking about City Hall and the other buildings that are right there.
The architecture reflects that vision that was shared by the citizens to staff and elected officials, and we move forward in that direction.
Yeah.
So that's why they look the way that they do.
I think, you know, the town of Prescott Valley said, we want to go our own way. And you did. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. You know, we live in Yavapai Hills, and one of the we aren't going to sell our house, but one of the sale points of our house right now is that when I look out our window, we can see the lights of the town of Prescott Valley that were here, and here, and here, you know, when we moved in 26 years ago to now, where there's a glow out there. And I can remember growing up in Tucson, if you owned a house where you could see the lights of Tucson, you were the hoity-toity. You know, that's where the rich people lived. You know, and now there's the town of Prescott Valley.
It's amazing what has happened out there. The first time I went to a concert there in the arena, 6,000 people or whatever, I realized that held the entire population of Prescott when I was a boy.
Yeah.
right? So that was the entire size. I think Yavapai County was 10,000 people when I was a small kid. So
But still, we were just saying the communities, both communities, Prescott and Prescott Valley, are still doing small town things that still make us feel like we're not, some megapolis or something. That we're still kind of pals. Now, one of the things I want to touch on, and either one of you can respond to this, is the cooperation between communities. When I say cooperation, I'm talking about the fire and the police and the how the communities cooperate and how important that is. Do you guys?
Well, my role was very limited on water resources, but,
Right, but
obviously the town and the city of Prescott. Worked cooperatively for a number of years on water issues, the joint pipeline, as well as trying to reach water conservation standards, and the regional efforts that were put together, the Upper Verde Watershed Protection Coalition, which Prescott's now no longer a part of for whatever reason. The Water Advisory Committee a long time ago, which you guys can reminisce on fondly. I'm sure everybody enjoyed that.
The whack.
You were staff at that point in time.
I was the staff for that group. Anyway, there's always been until really quite recently regional cooperation on water issues. It seems to be fragmenting in the past year or so. I don't know. I'm retired, so I don't get into
that's
it.
Right, yeah.
But politics and things change and that sort of thing, they come back together.
Sure. And Larry, you talk.
When you talk about interagency cooperation between public works departments or fire departments or
Police
departments, there's a very, very high level of cooperation and sharing between fellow professionals. And that's been ongoing since the 90s.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
That's all good.
Yeah, that's all good. The police cars don't slam their brakes on this town of Prescott's line and say, "Okay, Prescott, here they come."
Right. Well, yeah. Even to the extent when the police department, for example, has its annual banquet, which is an awards banquet, and all the police officers come in. Prescott will go ahead and patrol Prescott Valley streets for that 2 or 3 hour event, and similarly, Prescott Valley Police will patrol Prescott Police during that 2 to 3 hour period when Prescott does the same. So it's very reciprocal.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you're here because that's one of the little things that I did not know. It's just a small thing, but it really demonstrates what we're talking about. Yeah, and Shop with a Cop. At Christmas time is still going on, and
you betcha.
Those kind of things are, I don't know, just makes you feel good living here. I think.
Yep.
I feel good. What else we want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got something I want to just throw out on the table.
Okay.
And that is that people really, I would strongly suggest that they get to know their community better, meaning Prescott Valley, and sign up for the Citizens Academy, both the police department and then the general government Citizens Academy, so you can find out a lot more of what's going on. You'll develop a greater sense of appreciation for what has come before and how the community overcame so many of its struggles over time. I think that's important. And I also think that it's important for many people that are so disingenuous to move here and within a month they're calling their local government wanting to stop growth. And I got to call it for what it is. And that is maddening in that somebody found what they believe is paradise and they want to keep it like that forever. And quite frankly, that is not fair. Because the community should continue to grow. Because if you don't, and if you ever came from a community that was shrinking, and I did, then you want to see a disaster in the making. You see infrastructure falling apart. You end up seeing political issues become crazy. And what it is, you see communities feeding on themselves. growth is something that we can control and do control. And part of it is controlled by the availability of water resources going forward. But for those people that want to that move here, and within a short period of time, I want to stop growth right now, and I don't want to see this community change, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. John, can the town of Prescott Valley just willy-nilly do anything they want with water?
Well, absolutely not. By and large, the state, the Arizona Department of Water Resources controls that. Larry mentioned growth, for example. Growth is allocated by the lot line. Water for growth, I should say.
Okay.
So Prescott Valley had its initial group of lots prior to the 1980s. Then some more that actually received 100-year assured water supplies. So everybody had a 100-year assured water supply. Since 1999, there's only been a handful of new lots created in Prescott Valley. So most of the growth in Prescott Valley has been on lots, on properties that were allocated water resources 24 or more years ago, and those water resources were guaranteed for 100 years. So you can't just go and create new lots without water resources for those.
And he knows what he's talking about. He had to go to London to go accept an award that on the international stage was awarded to the town of Prescott Valley for water management.
What year was that, John?
2007?
Yeah.
8? Well, and it wasn't me. He got the award. I had to go make sure he came back.
Sounds like a boondoggle to me. Well, we've got a caller on the line, and we're going to go to him. Steve, hang on. I think we have to take a break. Let's take a break, and then we'll finish up the last segment talking to Steve Blair. So stick with us. We'll be right back. On the Bob Show, we're talking to John Munderloh and Larry Tartkowski. If you can hear me, and Steve Blair's on the phone. So, Steve, take it away. Hello. Go ahead, Steve.
Is that you, Bob Rucker?
It is indeed.
Hey, I just want to tell those two guys thank you. It's amazing, and I appreciate Larry's comments about when somebody moves here, they want to turn around and shut the door and say, I'm here, and nobody else can come here. I remember back in the day when I used to deliver bread out in Prescott Valley to Sanderson's Market, and there was like 5 buildings in Prescott Valley. And how dare somebody tell somebody else they can't come and enjoy the very way of life that we live. And I remember in 1999 when I was on city council standing there in the office of Rick Killingsworth, and he said, all they want to see out there is nothing but a sea of houses. And he believed that that community was exactly what you're talking about, a combination of retired grandparents, young families living the dream, and having a place to relocate if they chose to do so. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Steve. That's right on mark. Is that economic development and a community that welcomes all, regardless of their age, is important, and we've got a plan, and you see the results of that plan.
Well, yeah, and the bottom line is we are stuck with people that are moving in that now all of a sudden want to be the mayor or want to be a city council person that don't know the history, don't know the background, but yet they want to move in and tell us better how to live our life and what this community or your community should be in the future. And I think that is absolutely, like you said, wrong. The elitists need to go away and go back to where they came from.
It's welcome everybody, but assimilate. That's what we have to do.
And I got to tell you, Tony, he running for city council for Prescott, he said we all need to come together for the right reasons for our community. And that's what Prescott Valley and Chino Valley and Prescott and different folks have done through, numerous organizations, whether it's NAMWA or Upper Verde Coalition. And when you change the players, some of the players don't know the history, and they just want to dismantle everything that was put together.
Yep, I'm glad you called. John, you got a comment?
Well, people just want to recreate things in their own image, I think. No, they dismantle the organizations, the structure, the culture that's here, and then so they can create it to be what they want in their own image. Right. And I agree with you, Steve. It is maddening. You and I are a couple of the weirdest people around. People look at me like I grow a horn when I say I was born here, and I know you were too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and they don't get it. And the bottom line is, we made Prescott in particular and Prescott Valley. You made it someplace that you could be proud of. And the very reasons why people are moving to that community, Larry, through your guidance and through John's as well, Bob, people move here because years I was on council, what we created with Lamerson and all the different councils, making it a great place to move to. Now you got a bunch of wingnuts that are moving in here. Community they moved into.
Yeah. Well, you're starting to cut out a little bit, Steve, but I'm glad you called. Really appreciate it.
You guys take care.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Steve. We got about a minute and a half left. So, some real quick general predictions about the future.
Go ahead, John.
I don't look beyond tomorrow if that far.
The community's moving in the right direction. Things are looking good. The infrastructure's in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see very good things in the future for Prescott Valley and the Quad City area. I believe that the bulk of the new people that are moving here are reasonable and good people. They're moving here for great reasons, and I think that the democratic process will continue to move forward, and we'll continue to have a great place to live.
I think as long as we protect our historical importance and the people that are moving here, like I said, assimilate into our communities, that we'll be fine because,
Well, we have a culture here.
Yeah,
we have a
that's what I'm trying to
culture that
say.
was developed over, hundreds of years. It was an isolated community, didn't have many roads in here, and it is a different culture. If you lift up the covers and look at it, go to Charlotte Hall Museum, go to the Smoke Eye, visit some of the historical societies, try to understand that culture and what makes this area unique amongst all the other areas in the West. Not that other areas aren't unique too, but we are unique. And understand that so that you can not just overwhelm the area with,
Different ideas?
with the ideas that you came here with, but you moved here for a reason. Try to discover what that is.
All right.
Right. I would fully concur that the people living here respect what's here. Immerse yourself in that culture.
There you
go ahead and fully drink it in and get a feel for it, because that's what makes this area what it is.
Yep. We're a little bit slower pace, so slow down on the highways a little bit.
Please.
Like you said, yeah. You want to come here. We're off the beaten path a little bit, so this is a very unique place to live. Okay, thank you all both for coming in very much. I really had a good time today. So I want to say, as I usually do, we'll see you on September 5th. We have very good guests coming in that time. Goodbye to JP and the professor, and we'll see you on September the 5th.